Hello, everyone. It is Saturday, October 12th, 2024. This is day two for me. I am trying to rearrange myself, make myself a little bit better in the span of 22 weeks, and I'm trying to make daily vlogs or semi-daily vlogs as an accountability tool for myself. Yesterday, I thought I was going to start off strong. My goal was to complete a 12-mile bike run. I only got to 8.8 miles. I threw up all over the place. I was going really, really, really slow. Had to walk a large portion because I just didn't have the cardio output in me, and that sucks. So I'm going to try that again, see if I could get a little bit further. Although today I'm not really feeling up to par, kind of exhausted from yesterday, but let's see how things go. I'm so far away from fitness, it feels like I don't even know where to start at this point. I used to bike right up to 60 miles sometimes. So this is definitely disheartening. I don't like this extra weight on me. That's why I need to lose it. So current weight was 218.7 pounds. I think a little bit more than yesterday. I'm not quite sure how because I only barely ate anything yesterday. And I did that long bike ride, but I understand weights can fluctuate. Anyway, point of this particular blog I'm making is, in my previous video I mentioned I need to make a robust social circle. This includes having good friends around me, so on, etc. This may also include excluding some people in your life that maybe are a little bit toxic, or just changing the way you feel about them, maybe changing your relationship with them. And I'm going to tell you about a friend of mine that relates to a story I'm going to mention. This is a story of Rosie Ruiz. Rosie Ruiz was a Boston Marathon runner. She won, I believe, the 1980 Boston Marathon. She not only won, she broke a world record. She not only broke a world record, she smashed a world record. The crowd went crazy when she won, but almost immediately, there was suspicion, all the way from the interviewer, who would ask her some pointed questions about her training, which she didn't understand the verbiage. She didn't even know what the interview was asking. And then secondly, some runners noted that her form wasn't really in line with an elite runner. It left a lot to be desired, not as efficient as it should be. And thirdly, although she was not out of shape, she didn't really have the physique of a world-class runner, and Boston Marathon winners are world-class, very tough race to win. Anyway, she won. She went on some talk shows, and the doubt increased, but she stuck to her guns. She stuck to her guns till the bitter end, until she died, from what I understand. And I think she died in 2019 or 2020. Rest her soul. But imagine carrying all that weight on her. And I recall reading an article from a friend of hers. Her friend stated that she had done a previous marathon to qualify for the Boston Marathon at that time. That previous marathon, although she could complete the marathon, she was in a running club, she didn't feel like it. So she took a bus and kind of gave herself a little up and kind of finished in the upper middle part of the pack to complete the race, give herself a little bit of a break. And she told her friend she did the same thing at the Boston Marathon, but she took a train, and she didn't realize that she was number one with a bullet. She just thought she was kind of in the middle of the race or something along those lines. She was a little bit confused, and as she approached the finish line, she noticed people were starting to really get excited, and it threw her off. However, that same friend had another story about her years later, because her friend didn't want to burst her bubble. Her friend did not believe her, just like anyone else. No one believed her, but they were friends. Years and years later, the conversation came up, the topic came up. Somehow, her friend did not bring it up about the Boston Marathon, and sure enough, Miss Ruiz doubled down and said, I did win that race. I won that race, to her friend, who she admitted lying about it all about. So my question is, did that delusion ultimately sink in? It didn't seem like she had the problem previously, at least not to that same degree. But at the end of her life, did she believe? Did she believe she won the marathon? I was listening on a documentary about her. A psychologist mentioned that there's a possibility that she ultimately gave in and believed her own delusion. Second, it could have been a protective measure where at this point she can't really back down from her claim, although I think it would have been way easier if she just did that. And I think maybe if this happened in more of a later time where we're a little bit more understanding, I think if she did that a later time when people are a little bit more understanding, they would have been more accepting of her. But she went out through her entire life with that. And this reminds me of my friend. So this might be a friend that I need to kind of push away or redefine our relationship or set some ground rules. So this particular friend will always be near and dear to my heart. I was going through a bad time, as I mentioned in my previous videos, and I got fired from my job. And he messaged me because my dad had not been dead for too long, and I lost my job. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to hang out sometime? Maybe we should hang out. Maybe on the weekends or something. We should go do something." I took him up on his offer, and we had a fantastic time. Weekend after weekend after weekend, we would always hang out, and we would do stuff. We'd go from place to place to place and explore all of downtown Pittsburgh, actually. Perfect, beautiful city. I think it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite. Best food, so on, etc. And we had a fantastic time. And he helped me get away from people who maybe weren't good for me. And I think I helped him a little bit by giving him a little bit more of a social life, opening up his social life. I'm pretty social. I talk to people, and you got to kind of like join my club or what have you. We had met as co-workers initially. We were on the same program. We worked different roles, but we still met, and we would meet at the water cooler in the morning time or lunch break, and we would talk primarily about sports. How do you think this team's doing? How do you think that team's doing? And he knew way more about sports than I ever did. And eventually we got to speaking about amateur wrestling for some reason. I think it was on ESPN or something like that, and I mentioned, man, I love watching it on an international level because you could see how many countries are so very serious about the sport. It's a tough sport. And he was like, yeah, it's a great sport. By the way, I'm a two-time All-American, and I was on the 2012 Olympic team. This blew my mind, needless to say. I had done some sports when I was a little bit younger, and I did get to meet some pretty elite athletes. And every time for me, I was like a total fanboy. And I was like, wow, you were actually on the Olympic team. And he was like, yeah, but do me a favor. Don't tell anybody at our workplace. I don't want to be known as like this Olympic All-American guy. I just want them to know me for myself. And then later on, maybe I'll tell them. I said, I completely understand. I got your back. I'm not going to tell a single soul. And I didn't. Time went on, and although we worked on the same program, different roles, different areas, we worked with a lot of women. A lot of women were within our program. It was a woman-owned company, so on, etc. And a lot of them would come talk to me about him. He really had a crush on almost everyone in our program, which, was kind of funny. He wasn't harassing or deemed a threat or anything along those lines. He wouldn't say anything perverted or anything like that. He would just mostly try to really, really impress them to a point where they want to hang out with them. He would maybe just say, hey, do you want to go grab a drink at Starbucks or something like that? And they would always say no to him. But after a while, after he kind of shot his shot with the women, and it was understood that he wasn't really going to be dating them, and a lot of people don't want to date co-workers anyway, especially in a small program like that. It could get really congested. It could be a mess. A couple of the girls, they would have happy hour. I wasn't invited to this happy hour for quite some time. Again, in a different department, but ultimately, eventually, I was invited. And we would do this weekly, bi-weekly, usually on Fridays after work, and he was never invited. But everyone knew I was close to him. So the first time I went there, they started like making jokes about him and so forth. And one of the things that they did was they called him out on his Olympian claims and All-American claims, and he told them a lot more. He would tell them that he would train bright and early at this university. He was actually the assistant coach to this university. He might be head coach soon, according to him. This university in Pittsburgh has a strong wrestling history, fairly strong. And he said he would go wake up bright and early, go do this jog, go train with the team, and then come back for his 8 a.m. shift. And we kind of called bullshit because the logistics didn't really pan out appropriately. It kind of seemed like he was lying. But he would do that, and then he would mention like all of his athletic awards and so forth, and not a single soul believed him. I mean, they didn't even need to look him up. They just said it's coming from a place of desperation. He's really trying hard, and it's not working out very well. So I was like, man, I'm okay with that. I kind of had a chuckle about it, but in my mind, I was like, I'm never going to tell him any of this. I'm his friend. I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want the conflict. I don't want the confrontation. Um, Time went on. I got fired from that job. I had moved back to my home state to kind of regroup and get better because I was having issues. But we stayed in contact via Facebook Messenger. And on top of that, I would go back periodically to Pittsburgh to visit people, my friends, and so forth. So I would see him here and there as well, but there had gone some time where I hadn't seen him, and he had stopped more or less talking about his Olympian status, which was refreshing because in my mind I was like, man, he kind of called bullshit on himself. I never have to worry about dealing with that stress again because he'll always put me in between the girl and him. He'll kind of try to use me as a boost. This is my friend here. You know him. You hang out with him. I'm his friend. We're both cool with him, and I'm an Olympian, so on, etc. And I started to look at it in the end as a predatory action because you do this for women. You do this in an attempt to get a woman. He's a little guy. He's like 5 foot and he's not very attractive. So that hampers his ability. But I'll tell you what, he could probably get a girlfriend if he just kind of wasn't all hyper about his athletic prowess and how well he's done in life, because he has to let everyone know that he has a stable job, he's able to pay his rent, pay his bills, and he was this fantastic athlete over and over and over again. When in fact, if you get to know him, his parents pay a lot of his stuff to ensure that he has a nice lifestyle. His parents do have money, and I can't blame his parents for wanting to support their kid. But he'll throw it in people's face. People, and where we were at, we weren't in Pittsburgh. We were like 30 minutes away. The area wasn't bad, but a lot of people are paycheck to paycheck, and that's just the way it is. And they don't have the ability to do X, Y, and Z on the drop of a dime sometimes, which is fine. It's how a lot of us live. It's how I live. I don't have a job right now. But recently, the Olympics just passed, and he just mentioned out of nowhere in our messaging group, I am really under a lot of pressure, guys. I need to talk about it. And we were like, what's wrong, man? You okay? And he was like, the coaches from the Olympic team, both freestyle and Greco-Roman, are putting immense amounts of pressure on him to rejoin the Olympic team in 2028. They want him to go to Colorado Training Center. They want to build him up because if they catch him now, he'll be ready for the Olympics. And at this point in time, I had looked him up online. So he was a Division I wrestler, but it was a club team. I believe those are teams that don't give away any scholarships. You just kind of walk on and join the club, but you're able to join some tournaments. I saw him in some local tournaments there, and he got pinned first round every single time. So he's no way, shape, or form an All-American. In addition to that, there is a All-American database, which has absolutely everybody. He is not listed. He is not listed on the Olympian database, which is everyone has access to, so on, etc. It's easy to pull them up. In addition to that, if he was such a good wrestler, there would be videotape on him on YouTube, nonstop, right? Because people would study his wrestling or just view him because they were a casual fan, so on, etc. Anyway, he posts that and he was like, guys, I just want you to know, it looks like I am going to Colorado. I promise I will never look down on any of you guys. I'll still be your friend. And he's using this to try to get some girls excited, but everyone's kind of just cringing at him at this point. He continues on about it. And later on, in our messaging group, outside of it, had nothing to do with our current conversation, one of our female friends is posting updates about her and her breaking up with her boyfriend. It's her boyfriend she's gone out with for quite some time. He kind of ruined her. He took advantage of her. He hurt her. It didn't end well, and she is stressed out. She is sad, and she is venting. And as a friend, you should take that into account and be there and support them emotionally. Listen to them. Be a shoulder to cry on. No. My friend, my Olympian friend, he reminds her that you could do better as far as picking guys goes. He used to have a crush on her. You could pick a guy like me who has no problems paying bills. You can pick a guy like me who is, perfect and steady and nice, but you never gave me a chance, and now I might have to go to the Olympics. You could have gone out with me. And just, bypassing everything she felt. Um, anyway, I had to step in at this point, and I mentioned, because it's really upsetting this girl, I mentioned that you're not going to the Olympics. You're not going to Colorado, and you never were an Olympian. Automatically, he left the chat like a dog with its tail between his legs. And I thought he was going to cool off and just like back down and stuff like that. But he sends me a DM with curse words, and it's a lot of curse words, which is unnecessary and very disrespectful. I'm a grown ass man. I don't need to hear that. Um, and he starts saying, F you, you've never accomplished anything, you are no Olympic athlete, you wouldn't know what it feels like to push yourself this hard. And it's true, compared to an Olympic athlete, I wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff. It's true sacrifice, discipline that very, very few people have. And he just kind of goes on and on and on and on. Um, and I had to shut him down. I just mentioned, uh, I pointed out the sources I looked for him, I pointed out the information I had to him on him, and this like caused him to flip out. Flip out. There's a reason that my information is not on the internet. It's a very good reason. Okay, what's the reason? I asked him. I'm not going to tell you. I don't have to tell you anything. I don't tell anyone anything, because once they find out and verify that I was in the Olympics, they treat me differently. They treat me like I was famous and so forth. And I was like, no one's going to treat you differently. No one's going to think you're famous. No one's going to think anything. Yes, they will. All the proof is at my parents' house. I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with you. And he exits and he doesn't reply at all. He just leaves. Very cowardly, of course, because he can't handle the truth. Um, anyway, recently I was going to visit him. I was going to visit Pittsburgh, and on a whim, I was like, "Hey, man, let's hang out. Let's go grab a drink. Let's go get something to eat." And he was willing to do it. We were going in a group. I think he was happy about that. Um, and as the group dispersed, ultimately it was just me and him eating some nachos or something. And we weren't talking about anything. And he was like, looks at me very seriously. He's like, by the way, I was an Olympian. I was an Olympian. And as a matter of fact, one thing I do have at my house that I'm going to show you tonight is a letter, and I apologize, I forgot the name. Rulon Goldner, I forgot his last name. He is a Olympic gold medalist heavyweight Greco-Roman. He wrote me a personalized letter about, not giving up in his Olympic journey. He wrote it to me, and I'm going to show that to you tonight. I know he had been drinking, he had a few drinks down, and he gets to be a little boisterous, so I kept that in the back of my mind. I knew he wasn't going to show me any damn letter. I knew he didn't have a letter. Maybe at most he had an autograph, but that's probably as far as it went. Anyway, he didn't show me that letter. I didn't press the issue. I let it slide once again. And now he's acting like a real cocky jerk again, just like he was when he made those Olympic claims. Because I think he's like, yeah, I shut him down or whatever. Anyway, my question is he a friend worth keeping on some level? And then secondly, I wonder, truthfully, how far does his delusion go? I notice in social media he doesn't post anything directly, because he does have people that wrestled that know him. He does have his friends that have known him since childhood. He has family members on there, and he could get tagged and taken down real quick. So he doesn't post on there, but his whole claim is, I don't want to be treated special because of that. So anyway, that's my Rosie Ruiz story. And I guess I should also say, in a very kind of pathetic way, these are the kind of friends that I do have. I let him live this delusion for a while, and he was letting me live as an addict for a while. The end.